Yeah, that's a great way to start it out. That's a great statement.
Yeah.
What do you want to talk about? The last few days or the last few years?
I mean, it's that degree of, it's that, it's been, how has the unfolding been? Has it been this gentle experience that invites us to be present? Or has it been this massive pressure that squeezed us and just thrown us out into all of this intensity?
Well, I keep seeing, because I remember when I reawoke 10 years ago, I kept writing about the paradox, how, things are always the opposite of what they are. And then there's some kind of like thread between them that makes them the same. And to me, it feels like the paradox itself. And I don't even know what I'm saying, but the paradox itself, which is to me like has more dimension than just saying polarities or duality. The paradox itself is a 0 point. What's the crack? She's gonna watch Outlander. She didn't want to watch it. She's gonna watch Outlander for the next hour. Let me play the intro real quick. We've only got 12 people in here, so hang on. We'll be right back.
Perfect.
We weren't late. We started at 1:11 on the Pacific, on the coast. Said the intro sounds faster, and it does, because I have two different files, and I realize the other one's like corrupted and it plays slow. I don't know which one's better, the fast one or the slow one. Robert Sneddon.
Todd Medina. Yeah, that right there.
Yeah, that's it. End of the show. Thanks for joining us. Thanks
for having me. It's funny because, my first thought was when it was time to have a conversation with you, what am I going to talk about? There's so many things I'd love to discuss. And I realized that when I let go, the only thing I really wanted to do is sit in a room with you, take a breath together, as one of my teachers taught me, and then just allow how the movement goes from there,
Yeah.
So if you're willing, I'd love to just take a breath right now, just to arrive into the space.
Yeah, I'm already there. I'm with you. As soon as you said it just started.
Yeah, just going to take a breath to arrive with you, Todd. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, as we were saying before we came into the space, the last 2 years, the last 2 days, the last week, it's just
the last 2 hours.
Mate, yeah, it's crazy intense, and it's for me, everything keeps inviting me back to take a breath and to not be innerwhelmed or overwhelmed, or just because there's been so much change, If I start where I've been in the last few days, it's my birthday was last week, and I had been walking my own path very privately most of my life, where I didn't want my healing and my journey to be everybody else's. I wanted to find my truth, and my fear was that I'd seen enough healers that needed to be healed. I'd seen enough teachers that needed to teach themselves, and my need to help others would have just allowed me to get utterly lost in my own
wounded healer, right?
Yeah.
Wounded healer archetype.
Yeah. And it's, you know, the last week or so has been this, it's time. Like, all of this energy has been working towards me saying, I'm here. I've definitely, you know, I'm a man and I have wounding, but I'm ready to share my light and my love and my desire to invite other people to stand in their truth. And it's time for me to find the courage to share that with people, you know. It's great having been carried by this community and so many other communities since forever. You know, I could go right back to birth, and I could talk about the family story of when I was born, and the midwife had thought she was squeezing my mother's waters and was squeezing my head, and I came out with these 5 big dents in my head, you know. Or the fact that I was a really sick child, and there was no love was going to console that pain. I could talk about feeling disconnected for most of my childhood. But the incredible thing is that, you know, I always knew, and I do mean always, that at some point there had to be a place where I felt fixed, and I'd made that a target. And it's taken me forever to recognize that I ain't fixed. It's just you there's enough healing takes place where you're ready to stand and say, you know, life is incredible, and
there ain't no fixed.
I don't think there is.
No, of course not, man. Of course not. Because like it's the perfect imperfection that is the perfection. It's the perfect imperfection that is the exploratory mission that we're on, right? Yeah. There's, you know, I the last couple of days. Well, I didn't do anything yesterday, but you know how that goes in the ascension. When you're not doing anything, you're doing a whole bunch of stuff.
Everything.
Yeah. I've been thinking about, like, what you just said, where you're at in your life, in your journey, in your lives, and in your journeys. Let's put it that way. and so many other people. And I was looking at a list of things I had to do, and I sent David Icke. He had told me to get back with him end of May, but it's right after it. So anyway, I got back to him a little late, but
Mercury was retrograde, so I think
right. But what I was thinking was, and it's not so much, it's just to have these conversations and to see them gain more exposure, not these conversations at Soulogy necessarily, but the content of what's being talked about. And the energy that's coming through on the shows, right? Like, that's so when I messaged him, I thought, well, he obviously has a lot of people following him. I would love to engage a conversation with someone like that, or at least have the conversation where there's a whole bunch of people watching, and we talk about what we talk about on the show, which is what you represent and what you just said. And that is, there's a whole bunch of people in this world who have actually come to a point in their lives where they're saying, hey, you know what? This is a lot bigger than we thought. I'm not afraid anymore. I'm exploding. My third eye's expanding. There's some continuity building, this whole invisible energy. I mean, like, how do we get this mainstream? You know what I mean? Anyway, thank you for letting me say that. I just woke up.
No, I mean, it's interesting because, you know, I don't think you can go down the amount of rabbit holes that we go down as people and not have heard of David Icke. And it's really interesting because I was one of the people that I'd heard of him, but I'd never engaged with him at all. And I missed the live when you interviewed him.
Oh, yeah.
And then you were speaking a few months back and you were like, And there was this time David Icke came in and he spoke in a different way. And I was like, I need to go find that video and I need to hear it. And actually just saying that, and I'm feeling his energy in that conversation that you guys had.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really good. It was a good conversation. And I guess maybe that was, now that you mention it, the trajectory of what I'm talking about now. Because I think I did talk to him. I did tell him that there's a whole bunch of people around the world, but I didn't get in, I didn't get it. Well, we hadn't been to this point. That was in January, so it's now June.
Yeah.
And 6 months in 2021 is like about 111 2020s. You know what I mean?
Easily.
Yeah.
There's perspective. I was having this conversation. If it wasn't yesterday, it was certainly this week. When I was talking about perspectives and the fact that it used to be that I'd fight so hard to get to a perspective, and I'd fought. I'd given up part of my personality to find this truth, and I'd planted my flag in it, and I'd say, I have something that's utterly mine, that I've given up a part of my trauma, my beliefs, to know this, so I have to honor this. And the perspectives now shift so fast that there is no attaching to that perspective and saying, oh, I bled for this, I fought for this, I had this amazing realization. Because in the course of us having this conversation, I might have another 1, 2, 10, or you just don't know. It's happening so fast now. And it's well, let me share my wisdom in this moment. And then let me take a breath. And if I watch this again tomorrow, I'll be like, oh, well, that's shifted again.
Yeah. That was great great through yesterday, and then you wake up the next day and it's like an Etch-a-Sketch. You just
so you're describing trying to design a new website then, yeah? Because I went through all of that in me. I was like, right, I think I know what I'm going to share, and then I'd sleep on it, and then I'd literally set fire to it and start it again, and it was, long story short, what I was trying to say in my website was, I'm holding so much love here. I want to share it.
Yeah.
If you feel the resonance, if not in my words, then just in my eyes, then reach out to me and we'll see if we can do something together. But
that's a great, I will say this, that's a great description and a futile attempt to explain the energy that you are and that you're talking about. But you just keep going with that.
Yeah.
Because it is all about the heart. I mean, I know that sounds like a cliche, but people are magnetically being pulled to the truth. And so, like you said a minute ago, what you're going through, it's all moving so fast. The truth changes every day. If somebody said to you that was, say, on the outside looking in, or say it was a David Icke, say it was somebody that said, okay, I'm not familiar with communities like Soulogy. I'm not familiar with people like Robert or Todd or Jen or Melissa. I'm not familiar with that. What is that? What are you guys talking about? What are you guys experiencing? What are you guys concurring on? How would you describe it?
I think I'd start with synchronicity, and then I'd find my way back to saying it's heart, but without being some twee thing that your mum knitted. It's people. I'd want to say walking in the dark with a flashlight, but it's more like people walking in a super bright room, trying to figure out where the walls or the door is. And they're bringing all of their individual truths and pieces together.
Yeah.
We're looking for a way to describe the elephant, like, the three blind men. It's that. And what are we saying? We're saying it's way bigger than any one of us can understand.
Yeah.
It feels different for every one of us, and as Morgan is very fond of saying, her path up the mountain.
Yeah.
And each one of us is walking. It might be a very similar path. It certainly looks to be arriving at the same destination. But each one of us is we're finding a truth in our heart and either owning it or releasing it. And we're doing it again and again and again. And together we're uniting in that. That, for me, That's probably a Gemini explanation that needed 2 words instead of 50.
That was good. No, hell no, that was good. I mean, like, we all have family members and old friends that if they know about ourselves, our transparent selves, like people are coming out, people are speaking out, people are being seen, and people notice that. Like my family's never come to me and say, so what in the hell do you do? What is your belief system? And I feel like saying there is none. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like maybe the biggest, part of our identity, false identity that needs to come off is the fact that we need to know what's going on. Like we need to be able to understand it and explain it. Is that the ego? Tell me what it is. Let me tell you who I am. I mean, can you imagine that not being here? Like the need for me to tell you who I am, or the need for me to know what's happening. I mean, I don't know.
I think, therefore I want to start speaking out of my mind.
Go for it.
No, it's just, you talk about trying to explain it to family or others, and I mean, it's just such a long and amusing story, and it's only amusing from this place. From where it came from, it was chaos, But like my parents both woke up during the harmonic convergence in '87,
Wow.
and they didn't go looking for that, Todd. Like my mum was a housewife with 2 sons that lived with her and another one that lived away. My dad was a contracts manager for a company, and his ego had been the thing that took him out of his childhood and allowed him to drag his family, into a better life. And he knew when he was on site with his men, they were his men. He had a structure and he was working to it, and he was fighting for that truth that was Matt Sneddon, my dad. And my mum knew that she was unhappy, but that she had sons, and that that was her life, and it was certainly better than her childhood.
So this was the landscape for your family when the harmonic convergence hit.
That. So yeah. I was, I don't know. I mean, when are we talking? So I was 10. My brother would have been 8, and I was a sick child. And we lived in a small fishing village in the very southwest of England. And my parents had been brought up. My mum was a Catholic, my dad was a Protestant, and they turned their back on that when they married each other, and wanted to say goodbye to the structure of organized religion because it hadn't done them any favors. And then in 1987, in that picture I just painted, my mum had said to my dad, I need something, I'm going to go look for some religion, or some, it was to God, I can't quite remember the wording, but she was going searching for something because she was hurting. And my dad, from the kind of family that they were, he gave her his tentative, that's okay, I can allow that, even though we turned our back, and I'm okay with that. It's that's, and then she went looking and she bought a Bible, and she brought the Bible home, and my dad came home from work and she was like that to him, I can't find Matthew in the Bible. And he's like, Catholics, let a good Protestant son show you how you read a Bible. And he's gone through this Bible and there's no Gospel of Matthew in it. And here comes this doubt because he's Matthew. And he's like that. Oh, that's just a mistake. There'll be a problem with the print run of the Bible. And this predates the internet, but he went searching and he's asking, he reached out to the producers of the Bible. There's a problem with this. I'm assuming it's a batch run, and they're like, no, never. No, you're unique. There is no other Bible out there that the Gospel of Matthew is missing.
What the hell?
I mean, it's that. So he's driving home from work one night, and at the bottom of there's a hill halfway home. And at the bottom of the hill, he knew absolutely there was no God. And then he met the living God. And by the top of the hill, he could not deny that God was real. Which utterly took a nuclear bomb, not just to him and everything he'd constructed, but to his family.
Yeah.
Because, and then, you know, they both went through this.
So, I mean, so he has this experience. She brings home the Bible. Matthew's not in it. This is 1987.
Yeah. And
I
it's,
mean, okay. So he comes back and they say, hey, they compare notes and everything shifted. What did that look like when that shifted? Did he stay with his job and stay in that
yeah, I
matrix?
mean, I mean, I was talking to my friend about this yesterday. I don't know how he would have been able to do what he did. You know, my mum was in the process of understanding why she was really unhappy, and that was really painful for her, and it had a big impact on both him and then us kids. But he still had the responsibility to maintain the family and to do the right thing by his wife and his children, and he had the job, and he held all of that whilst losing his sanity. You know, that's how he's described it.
So he was a way shower's way shower.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, when I talk to other people or you read books about different people that had their experiences in 1987, so many seem to have found each other and congregated and been able to assist each other with this entirely different way of viewing the world from a spiritual.
So he found that your parents found people in 1987 that were having kind of an awakening and actually connect.
No,
they didn't.
That's what I was saying. Most people,
I see what you mean. I see, like in contemporary times, like now.
Yes, yeah. But when they describe people that woke up in 87, a lot seemed to find each other, whereas my parents didn't. They knew that there was this Holy Spirit, there was God, there was all of this living truth. And where did they go with this? There was no internet to ask. And they tried different churches and different people, and were looking for an answer that would bring them, what do you do with this energy, with the Holy Spirit, with the power of a living God that's communicating with you, you know, in one hand, and on the other hand, you're trying to run a family and a home. And so he went through this dark night of the soul that, you know, I would say lasted a decade. It was a long time, and it required him to hold himself, his family, and his wife. You know.
Now, was your mom, you know, running the same frequency with him? I mean, were they both kind of on the same path? Or
they were awakened at the same time.
I mean, were they had each other, I guess, to talk about it. Right?
They did. They definitely did. But my mom was going through her experience, and as I say, hers was a journey into her trauma from when she was born through.
Okay. Yeah.
And she was living in hell, mentally, emotionally, unable to function a lot of the time in the world because she was carrying all this trauma. And, you know, enter into this environment because she'd suppressed all of her childhood memories that were really traumatic. But enter into that environment, her sons, who were like two little sponges, and the world had been one shape before this experience that, I mean, it was theirs, but we're living in a tiny little house in a fishing village. So you knew everything, the dynamic shifted. And truth became a different subject, you know, and it invited both of us to run away from it at full speed and yet expect and accept things that were just truly unusual. So, you know, would we be talking would my dad be talking or singing in light language one evening, you know, in tongues? Or would we be visiting a church to see if there was a community there that would be able to hold a man who was going through this incredible experience with a living God? You know, would we be going home from school to mum who was, you know, in bed, unable to move, processing all of this trauma that she carried? And so, you know, whether we wanted to be part of some harmonic convergence consciously, we were dragged into it. But we were dragged into this incredible world of ego versus spirit versus truth versus perspective. All the while my dad's trying to hold that energy of the family together. And and what, and so it was, yeah, I mean,
So was there, I mean, was it common that, like, you were what, 10,
I
right?
was 10.
So, like, say, was it common as the years went by, like the next 10 years or so? I mean, was it common for the four of y'all to have conversations, or maybe with your dad? I mean, did he bring this stuff up, or was it more of an energetic pickup that
It's my memories are of a child, and what I mean by that is that my memories won't necessarily fit the timeline as it happened. But my brother and I often talk about, especially as we get into the younger teenage years, my dad would be working when we got home from school. My mom would often be in bed or truly in the depths of depression.
Yeah.
But then there would be moments where there would be levity, and they'd talk about Holy Spirit, or they would talk about the frustration, or, my mom would go into detail about the abuse that she suffered, and that, because they were under this impression that they had to stand. Well, they weren't under the impression, they knew they had to share truth, but it was just in what perspective and with what child,
Wow.
So,
man, these are like, your parents are like some of the first candidates to be ascension saints, I mean, how many stories are like this? And you guys had so you had a conscious household.
Conscious, but I mean, it's interesting because it was, when you say that, I get a picture of people. See, and it's perspective. But when I hear conscious household, I hear people that are really aware of their triggers and their emotions, and they're able to speak to where they are.
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. Yeah, and you're right. But like, to me, so many of us at different times, and that we're like, I don't think I'm awake, kind of thing. And it's that confusion. It's that the question asking. And that's what I mean about your parents is, like, for that period, let's say that, not today.
Yeah.
But they were questioning reality one way or the other, and seeking truth. That's what I meant. Yeah.
Yes. Sorry. Yes. In that case, absolutely. The frustration, I think the greatest frustration that my dad had is that his awakening and my mom's was very much around, the church, the belief in a God, Holy Spirit, Christ. But when they went to church, and they went to many different churches, and my dad spoke to different ministers, and he spoke to different denominations, nobody seemed to be speaking the language of a living God right now, who's here in the room talking with me. And it's like, I'm not insane, and I know I'm not, but if you're the minister, why do you keep referring me to the book, which is great, it's a reference tool, but what about this living spirit that's I can only imagine, where that must have led to, other than utter frustration. Whereas,
so if you don't mind me asking, like, where are your parents today?
My dad is in Scotland. He lives alone in Scotland. My mom ended up taking her life 17 years ago. It became too much,
No, I get that. I've had a family member, very similar situation. So that's a very deep thing, it really is.
I've been healing that this week again in a very different way. Really? Totally unintended, but the last week has just been mind-blowing.
Well, that would kind of sum it up for the last week for me. It's like totally unintended programming being cleared, things coming up. But for you, so this specifically, this last week, this came up with your mom. Is that what it was?
It's been crazy. It's been, I'm seeing there's a question there about if my experience with personality with my mother. I was enmeshed in my mom's trauma. I was enmeshed in her trauma since before I could speak.
Super empath. Yeah.
Massively, but with no conscious awareness of what that was. I just knew what pain was.
Yeah.
And I knew. Wow. Yeah. And I mean, I could feel people's emotions. And the problem
especially your mother, right?
Oh, good Lord. It was an enmeshment.
Yeah.
And anyway, so I'll jump forward again. The long story short is, yes, a lot of my life, consciously or unconsciously, has been me learning to separate myself, not just from the energy, that my mom had when she was carrying me, or the trauma of my childhood through her eyes and my own. It was learning to separate what was my mom's, what was mine.
Yeah.
Which of it was real, or do I just embrace all of it and say I somehow learned to forgive? So there was always this, what do you do with this, you know? And I've had some really beautiful, impactful healings, and they can be as simple as, you know, a couple of years ago, I was called to go and forgive my mom and lay a rose where her ashes had been scattered. And I had this incredible, beautiful experience. And I walked away from that floating, thinking, like, with this huge weight, being like, oh, well, that's passed. I've dealt with that. That's integrated. And you'd think, when you've been playing this game as long as we have, you'd like, this might, like, the seasons want to come around again.
Yeah.
No, I walked away from it, and I was like, that's epic. What a gift. And then in the last week, it was really weird. I'm going to get this sequence of events a bit messy, I suspect. But I met two women through your show, actually. I was talking to Donna Owens.
Oh, Donna.
I'd made
Texas.
a comment. Yes, I'd made a comment.
Texas homegrown.
Yes. I made a comment on one of your posts.
Uh-huh.
And it was just something like, yeah, I agree with that. But when I woke up the next morning, I saw that Donna had liked it, my comment. And I don't normally look at that sort of thing, but I didn't just look at it. I followed it back to her page, and there was an interview with you. And normally in the morning I get up, I go out to the forest, pick up a coffee, and just spend several hours in nature. And that's how I begin my morning. And this morning I knew I was staying in bed, and I didn't understand it, but I felt it. And I sat there, and I didn't so much watch that conversation that you had with Donna as just close my eyes and give myself to the energy of it, with no understanding of what it was that I was connecting with, other than the frequency between both. But when by the time I was finished with that video, I sent Donna a message, just being like, I think there's an energy here that I can hold with you. Actually, I feel a real resonance. And so I said that and let it go. And then as I'm walking towards the coffee shop on my way to the forest, I always invite energy in each hand as I'm walking. And as I'm bringing in this energy, I'm just like, oh, I'm dealing with something here. Like, I'm feeling, what is this? And then I was like, oh, there's mother wounding here coming through. And I didn't recognize until I got a message back from Donna, and then we actually had this exchange through the course of the day, where I was realizing that there was another level of movement for me with my mother's, with the mother wound, as I would call it.
Wow.
Yeah, and then
that came through essentially the non-verbal energy of what you just described. Like,
there was no words, there was no, and there was no conscious going looking. It wasn't like, I'm feeling sad, I must have a mother wound going on.
Yeah, but like that morning when that happened, and her energy or something in that mix, was part of bringing this up. That's interesting.
It brought it forward for me, and it was interesting because, it wasn't until she said in one of her messages to me that she has a strong mother-grandmother energy, that I was able to go, so it is the mother wound. And that's
that place where you can rest your head and say whatever, that place where you're, what is that? Protected. Well, it's like a baby coming out of the womb with the mother in the physical, that relationship, that connection. Total trust, total unconditional love, total stillness in the mind. I mean, it's just all intuitive.
It's that perfection of creation, and yeah.
So for someone like you, okay, because obviously you've been lit since day one.
I've been a
picked.
mess since day one.
Yeah,
I think.
well, to me that's awake. To me that's awake. That's what I was saying earlier. To me that's awake. To me, being not knowing, like and knowing something the day before, and then waking up the next day and go, I don't know nothing. It's like humility in giant scoops. Like when you're a kid and your mom's making the cookies with the dough, and then she makes the cookies, and then you get to get the bowl with the big spoon.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, to me, what's attracting me, what's inspiring me, what resonates with me is this human, looking at a human hybrid divine soul, and them being human. I mean, it's like I've had these downloads. In your case, I've had this great foundation. I mean, from an energetic standpoint, your story from 1987 forward, just that part of it is amazing. But at the same time, you come on and I say, hey, what do you want to talk about today? And you're like, well, I don't know. You want to talk about the last few years, the last few hours? Because in that statement, you're basically saying, I don't know anything. Like, I mean, it's just like, I'm just here, surrender.
Yeah, it's that. It's that, Todd. I fought for years to have enough. Before the internet, it was epic because I had a voracious appetite for knowledge,
Yeah.
and I was socially crippled, inept, and so I would have a tiny bit of information about every subject. So any subject would come up, and I would know enough to show that I was some sort of expert in 2 sentences. Please stay the fuck away from me now, because I don't want to engage with you. And then, again, I was watching one of your interviews the other day where you're chatting with someone, and they were saying about how you used to say, I know a lot. I know. And it was a great way of saying, yeah, I've heard that. I've dealt with that like that. Yeah. That's old knowledge. Yeah? And it's like, oh my God, I spent decades learning that way. Whereas I know everything there is to know about being.
Yeah. Resistance to your own ignorance. So I know. Yeah. I know that, and I'm okay. Those are the 2 red flags for me. For Todd, in regard to Todd, I mean, if I hear myself saying, I'm okay, I'm good, man, I'm balanced, I'm like,
yeah,
shut up.
Yeah. It's at that point you have to take the breath, and it's
so for someone like you. Okay, I'm just curious, like the stuff we're talking about. I mean, this has been, in my opinion, like, let's say from the beginning, even like your parents are great examples. That that lightning bolt hits them, you immediately begin to start looking at yourself one way or the other, because the universe is right.
You can't know.
But so that part of it, I mean, this will always be the real-time intel. I'm curious with someone like you, because of your energy and because of the evidence and the reality that we're going from carbon to crystalline and everything that goes with that transformationally, right? Have your skills, your ability, your sensitivities, your experience, I mean, what's it been like in 2021? And if you want to talk about the last few weeks, that's cool too. I mean, where are you at? Are you seeing any type of significant change in Robert?
Oh, good Lord. I could limit it to just today. And yes. I mean, like I say, I could just start with today, and I don't even know if I'd have enough words in the time to speak to you to say how my heart shifted. And the really beautifully offensive thing I'm finding almost every day, as far as that whole egoic thought process goes, is the fact that it's old knowing that we're getting back. So, I'm walking down a whole sequence of beautiful events got me to use Spotify for the first time this week. The first time I ever used a streaming service, it was Apple. I fell into their hole, and then the thought of changing over to Spotify has been no. And then I was speaking with Melissa, and she was like, "You need to listen to this." And I was like, "I'm going to take advantage of some free Spotify, and I'm going to make that leap." And then jump forward to this morning, there's a Krishna Das album on there that wasn't on iTunes, and he was talking as much as there was music in it. And usually I avoid, when I'm looking for music to walk to, I avoid it. And yet his teachings this morning, and this album is a decade old now.
Who is it?
Krishna Das. And he's just saying nothing new, and yet I heard it like a child hearing his name for the first time. It was, he's like, we keep looking, we keep searching for that ascension, for that enlightenment, and we look everywhere but right here.
Yeah.
And that's not new. I mean, that is as old as it gets. And yet this morning, I've been saying this for years. And this morning, I'm crying as I'm walking, I'm walking through the forest. And here I am, tears pouring down my face, just like, yeah, I'm still putting it out there. And then I look at the resonance, because I've been doing this incredible stuff over the last few days with the synchronicities piling up. Again, with Melissa. I mean, she's just, the connection that happened over the last few days, I should probably just talk about a little, because it was ridiculous again. So back when there was the two silent gatherings that Morgan and Ivania arranged, I had done a little video after the second one just to talk about how I'd experienced the energy in both. And then I got a message from Melissa shortly thereafter saying, Morgan said I should watch this, your video. I watched it. I then watched a video where you go in to talk about star babies, and that's a whole other subject. She's like, and I think I'm one of those. And I'm just wanted to thank you for sharing your thoughts though on the silent meditation. And we've not engaged in any way since that happened over a month ago. And then a couple of days ago, there was a post that she'd put up, and again, it spoke to me, and I was just like, oh my goodness, like, this really speaks to me. And these days, I've become a guy who is quite happy to say things and be seen saying them. I'm happy is tentative, but I'm learning that I want to. And I thought nothing of it other than this was powerful, walk away. And then I got a message from Melissa the next day as I'm in the forest saying I needed to hear you hearing my words, because the resonance I needed to hear. And I could tell by the energy that I was sat in. And I messaged her and I was like, I'm really touched, and I really feel that you need to speak. So if you want a phone, like, this is as far out as my comfort zone as I get. I was like, if you want to give me a call, feel free. And then she messages me like, I'm going to get some headphones, I'll phone you in a few minutes. And Todd, I would never do stuff like this in the past, because this is, how does a man say that to a woman without it in some way being some sexual thing or I didn't know how to be comfortable doing that. And yet I was like, oh, I can feel her energy, she needs to speak. And she called me at exactly 11:11, and I was just like, if that's not a subtle enough resonance that we're going to be speaking. And she came on and she spoke, and she was describing her day, and we just I held this shape, and she spoke into it, and then her experience of that day changed its shape. And then we went on to talk for I'm going to say 2-3 hours, I can't remember all told. It was a long time, just sharing all of the shifts that are taking place, and the amazing that it is when you go with that intuition. Like, I knew I needed to message her and like to comment on that post and say that really spoke to me. She knew she then needed to message me, and then the next day, as I'm reading this, her message of thanks, I'm like, oh, she needs to speak. And it was quite incredible. So I was able to hold this shape, and she, as I say, she spoke into it. And then the really amusing thing from my perspective, because it's that appeal sometimes when you hold a space for someone, that there's this, superiority is very much the wrong word, but like I'm okay. And when I sat with that, I was like, that's really interesting energy. We need to let that go. And And then I woke up the next morning, Todd, and I was furious. Like, furious doesn't begin to touch it. And we'd had nothing but pleasant conversation. And we'd been discussing energy and all of these incredible movements. And I woke up the next morning and I was like beside myself with rage. And I realized I was pointing it all at her, all of it. And I was just like,
oh, you were projecting it.
Oh my God, like
at her.
out.
I mean,
so.
Okay, but at this point, you're just with yourself, right?
Oh no, I'm with myself. I'm woke up, and normally when I wake up, I get balanced, and then I say I go out to nature. And I woke up, and there was no balance. There was rage. And so, this person that had no reason for me to be angry at, so I could see how ridiculous it was, like instantly. And then I brought it back in, and then it came straight back out at my partner that I'm separated from, and I was just like, nope. And then I realized that I'm projecting all this anger out, and I'm like, no, it's not hers either. And I brought it back in again, and then I was just like, oh, I am pissed at my mom. Like I'm pissed. No. And then I was like, no, like knowing how that feels, I'm going to sit with it, but there's something that I don't understand. And my dad gave me her ring after she passed, and it's the one thing of hers I've got. So I'm very much into the energy that things resonate with, and I put the ring on, and then I went to the forest. And on the way to the forest, I messaged Melissa, and I was just like, I'm raging, and I'm pointing it all at you. And I was like, it's total disassociation, but yeah. And Melissa, being Melissa, who's done all the 0 pointing work, and who is, she is compassionate and caring and really present, was able to say, I'm holding a shape for you, speak into it. And I was just like, fuck off. No, like, and it was ridiculous. Like, but it became this, she was like, no, I'm holding this space, go for it. And I was able to speak to this rage that, that she was just like my mother, that she was that. I mean, it was so much projection.
No, I get it. I get it.
But I was able to release it all with another person who was happy to stand in that space.
That's just crazy. There's that paradox again. So on one hand, she's what you described, like that call you had the night before, and on the other end of that paradox / polarity, that mysterious space, whatever that is, she triggered you.
Oh my God!
You saw that's such a great example for that reason, and to me, the main reason is because as you were telling me the story before you got to the end, I was thinking, so I wonder how that worked. Well, did they have like a past relationship, and in the process of realigning, was it? Who knows? But I mean, the fact that you figured out it wasn't hers and it wasn't yours, in a sense.
Oh no! I mean, absolutely. And for me, what really helped, I interrogate my dad. It's one of the, in fact, I'd say it's the biggest gift that my dad gave me. When I was a broken young 21-year-old, 22-year-old, he basically took a can opener to my mind and was like, no, that's a thought. Nope, that's a belief. Nope, that's an emotion. And it was at the time a horrendous ripping.
Yeah.
Because there was nothing subtle about my dad at that point. But fuck, he taught me how to see the difference between a thought, a belief, and an emotion. And so I could.
You had your own shaman.
Yeah.
Sounds like he was Don Juan and you were Carlos Castaneda.
Yeah, I don't know the story well enough, but I can say that he had done a lot of work, and yeah. So, but it meant that I can wake up in the morning, be furious, utterly like shaking with rage, and pointing at someone and going, "Well, that's mine," like, but then looking at the different things, and I mean, whether you're looking at the emotion, the belief, or the thought, or the myriad of beliefs that are taking you to that point, the ultimate destination is always going to be a corruption that's preventing you from standing in your heart.
Yeah.
always. And
Yeah. It's like that's mine, but it's not me.
yeah,
Like I like
yes,
the way you hit that. Like you knew it wasn't her, and then so it was yours, but it's not you, right?
no,
That's what I really liked about your little step through all
yeah.
that.
And the gift there, as I say, is that then so I'm stood in the park, and I mean I was verbally laying into her as only a Scotsman can. You know, where you get angry, you get more Scottish, you get
I
more pronounced, you're
I
right eye. See, you're into it and you're like, you're this. And I raged. I let the Scotsman just Braveheart all over the top of her and just be like, freedom. Yeah.
oh man.
But you know, she stood there, she took it all, she sat me down, and we had a conversation for a half hour, and she starts just moving this energy with me. And she moves energy in a similar manner to me. And then there was this moment where I'm sat and I'm physically manifesting energy. I thought it had passed, and I'm sat manifesting the energy and physically holding it outside of my chest here. And I'm like, I sit there on the phone. I'm like, I'm holding this energy right now, and I've got no idea what it is. And normally I know what energy is before I'm even feeling it. And I'm sat here and I've got it in my hands, and I'm like, what is this? And she's like that. She's like, it's rage. She's like, but you don't know it. And I was amazed and appalled because normally I know what other people are feeling or what I'm feeling telegraphed so far in advance. But this
Yeah.
rage was so deep,
Yeah.
I couldn't see it to name it. And I'm holding it apart. And then instead of being able to play with this energy and move it, I realized I actually had to let it go and come back into my heart and then release it from that point. So
it reminds me of like I know early in my journey, and I know other people. This has happened. Like some people are tuned in a very obvious way, and they have experiences direct. Okay, and then some people, like when I first came out, it was like a dozen psychics and mediums that would come in full resonance. I could, intuitively, I knew have a message, and I often wondered about that. Why isn't it coming direct? And there were some things that did and some things that didn't. But I think there must be it's kind of like, okay, if I said to you, have you ever connected with your mother? And this is just an example. Like in my case, there's certain people that have transitioned I can't connect with, but if somebody assists me, I can. And this is what I'm getting at. Like in your case, it's not so much a communication thing. I guess it is really, but so both Donna and her brought something through the synchronistic connection that you couldn't, you couldn't literally go direct with. This was like a collaboration to get you to the point that you're at. And in fact, if you think about it, it was almost like a triad: Donna, Melissa, you, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's, I don't connect with consciously with entities, beings, and other people. That's not my vibe. It's not. It's not what I do. But if I connect with an energy, then I'm able to stand in the resonance of that, in the emotion of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just thought that was interesting when you said you pretty much always, you feel the energy before it even comes. And that yet this energy, which is obviously a very big part of your setup or your life or whatever, traumas, whatever, you couldn't feel it until at this level until, and so I just think about that and I wonder how many, it's almost like no matter how far you take it, the bigger components of your life, the things that shaped you and therefore have to be unshaped, right? You never really can turn your back on those things because the level of the impact is so deep. Like in your case, you can't pick up on the energy until you have this experience with Donna and Melissa.
Yes. Yes. What I would say to that is one of the big things I work with people is disassociation. In fact, it's key to almost everything that I do that's energy related. Which
Disassociation.
is actually, yeah.
So do you work with them on becoming aware of their disassociation? That's one question. And I didn't know are you an energy practitioner? Do you work with people in that capacity?
I do. I'm only coming out, so to speak, like recently. But yes, I've been working and holding space with people for years.
Cool.
As I've been learning. So your first question, sorry, was.
So you do energy work. So you're saying one of your principal things that you do, or I guess I'm asking the question, is what you were saying, is it to make people aware that they've been disassociating from certain things, or is that what you're talking about?
If that is required, absolutely.
Okay.
Almost everyone that you will ever meet desires to stand in their own heart. It doesn't matter whether you're talking about people that see energy, that feel energy, people that believe in energy, or whether you're just talking about, a guy on the street. It doesn't matter. Most people have a desire for something. They desire a connection. And the thing that holds us separate from that connection is something that we've disassociated. And the way that we do that is that we learn not to feel it. And we don't just learn not to feel it, we actually push it out of our body. And most of this kind of trauma will sit here on your chest. So you can't feel it because you're not aware of it. So when you guide somebody towards that disassociation, what you're actually doing is you're inviting the person to stand in their heart, but there will be something between them and their heart that's holding them separate.
That's powerful.
It's life-changing, actually.
Well, that's powerful, because I've never heard somebody say this, or maybe they haven't, I didn't understand it. But so obviously when there's major traumas, and I can't speak to that experience as much as people like Morgan, and yourself, but I mean, like, they talk about how you leave the body. If they say the human's going through a serious trauma, like an assault or molestation or something, you disassociate, you leave the body, so that I can see from a higher perspective how that works. But it's weird, because there's that paradox again, because you're saying that we actually push it out of the body, because you would think, oh, it goes into the body, it like gets stored and constricted. But there's a paradox again. It's probably both.
There is. It is both.
So it gets pushed out of the body.
And so that's the emotion.
Yeah, exactly. So that's like the separation. You're like separating from yourself.
Yeah. And that's not the soul loss. That's a whole other thing that prevents the soul, that soul part, coming back in.
So the human has to bring the human part back in so the soul can come in. Basically.
No, not basically. That is it.
That's
but
it.
But the thing is when you're always looking for and at this separation, you're like, why am I depressed? Why am I unhappy? Why am I stuck in some trauma pattern or addiction? And what you're really saying is, what am I not feeling?
What am I not feeling?
Because when you're hurting, what you're saying is, I feel everything. I'm raw. I'm open. I'm so depressed, and everything hurts so much. Yeah. But actually, that's the resonance of what's missing. That piece of you that you pushed out because you couldn't accept it, because it just didn't fit with who or what you are as a soul, as a person.
Yeah. Yeah, there's been a lot of that cleanup going on in the last few days. I was talking to Morgan about it last night. I had been telling her for, I don't know, about 2 weeks. I'm like, there's so much stuff going on, I don't even see the point in talking about it. Just talking about my own personal transformation, something that we would talk about day in and day out. But my point was, there was so much of it. Yeah, it was incredible. But I did talk to her a little bit, reflecting on the last couple of weeks about some deep dive stuff. And it wasn't a deep dive it was very similar to the energy of what you're talking about with this level up with your mother, right? Through Donna and Melissa's collaboration. It was very much like taking a look at something and really going deep and feeling everything that not like reliving the experience, but actually reliving the energy and feeling it in my body. And it was everything from, there wasn't much bliss, but there was like, but it was, there was something about re-experiencing, going to that point and feeling the energy all over again. I don't know how to explain it, but talking to you, it's kind of coming up, which is like, by doing that, I did bring it in. That's how I would put it talking to you. So thank you for telling me whatever you told me. Because, and you know what's crazy is about a minute and a half ago, as you were kind of finishing up that part of it, my screen went crazy, which is happening more and more often, these tech things.
Yeah.
God.
It's huge. And the incredible thing, you know, I was working with someone a few days ago, Todd, and you can be stood with someone in the throes of frustration. Why can I not see this? How can I not let this go? And yet there will be like in this moment of why can I not see it? Why can I not let it go? There was this emotion I just watched across her chest, and I said to her, "What was that?" Like, it leaves a physical presence in the body when you move emotion. It's visible.
Yeah.
It's incredibly subtle, but it's visible. And as I watched her say, you know, I can't feel it. I don't know why I'm feeling this. And then this emotion crossed across her chest, and I was like, she went to keep talking, and I was like, no, stop. What was that? And she went, what? I said, that expression on your face was something really different. And she went, oh yeah, I felt the energy shift there. I felt the energy shift. There was an emotion, but I ignored it because I wanted to tell my story.
Oh,
but our body, but when we don't recognize, we're not trained to see a shift in emotion as a shift in, actually, there's a healing here waiting to pour out of us. Yeah. We talk ourselves away from it. Yeah. That's the circular thing that we do to stay safe.
Literally and figuratively, but energetically most important. And you're right. This isn't so much a, I got to learn how to do this and I got to learn how to do that. It's not. It's really more of like you've been talking about, and really in your story, which is just that figuring out what you're not. You're right. Which is a lot more than something you might attach a label to of yourself, and that self-judgment and self-condemnation and all that stuff that we go through on the way to self-love. But it's not just people or, you know, a certain event. It's, I don't know, that really spoke to me, what you said. And I go back to what I said as a result, which is there's something about having felt the entire experience from an energetic standpoint within my body 10, 15, 20, 25 years later of the last few days, and some type of weird, I don't know what you'd call it, alignment, but it definitely felt like pieces were coming, final pieces were coming back. You know what I mean? Like fine, big chunks of armor coming back.
I don't know that I've ever heard anyone describing it as armor before.
Well, I mean armor as in the fortification of my field. Okay, so just picture like a medieval, right? Like the Roman soldier with the armor. And when we first came down here, and this is all energy. That's just a metaphor. And we come in and we're a baby and we got all of our armor. It's pure, it's innocent, it's powerful, it's sentient, you know, and then all of a sudden these chunks start coming off, right? And the first ones are the armor, the protection, because what happens? We start to think less of ourselves. Our field becomes weak. We give our power over. And now we're standing there buck naked like a slave. And the only ones wearing the armor are the ones that we've given the power over to, right? But now when I say that, it's like it's coming back. That's a big piece that you processed with the girls.
It was, but can I just have a moment?
Yes.
Because
yes,
one of the things I really work with is polarity. and how words have a subtle yet incredible shift on how we perceive things. For me, I would say a child is born with no armor and is connected to everything. It utterly open to their environment, to space, to creator, to everything, Todd. And actually the armor is thrown upon us, or we're forced into it, or we're asked to limit that connection. And so whenever this armor is coming up, it's what's limiting. It absolutely limits. And I would just invite you to maybe see it the other way around, that what you're getting back as you go through this experience, and this nausea rises from your stomach and up out. It's that old pattern of believing that you need like soul armor to go explore. I know it sounds like semantics, but it's
no. I get it, but it's that paradox again.
Yeah,
it's both.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm essentially saying the same thing. It's just was a metaphor that popped in my head, but yeah, obviously. But if you think about the energetic being that you described as when we came in the door as a baby, even with this, well, who knows if the memory was swiped, because I think as babies we remember all that stuff, right? But at that point, as an energy, that's our strongest point, right? That was our strongest point. And that's what I meant about the analogy. But and then as time goes on, we became, stereotypically or typically, we became less and less of a powerhouse, right? Less and less. And then we woke up, and now we're climbing the mountain, so to speak. And on that note, with your wealth of experience, do you think we're at the top of the mountain and we're walking down the other side now? Are we just like 1% up the mountain?
I don't even know if we're on the mountain, Todd. Honestly, I don't.
We're not on the mountain.
I don't know. I do, I've watched so many of the conversations you've had recently, and the work I've been doing with myself and with the other people that have been coming into my space. And you talked about it recently as well. The core of grief is it's so much bigger than everything else. And it seems to be at the moment that we're being invited to find what's kept us apart from that grief and stand in it, because through that grief, again, you've said it so many times beautifully, through that grief is your heart. And at the moment there is this collective purging of grief that's so old. It's not, I mean, we've got ours, we're bringing ours, but we are, the 100th generation of this energy that's ready to release this grief and return to the thing we can't remember.
That's what came to visit you last week. That the grief thing is that's been up since March. And I mean, for me, and I know people I talked to, I remember Michael Mejia, our brother, he hit me up in that time period. Morgan and I were going through it. A lot of people were, but my perspective of grief today, as it compared to what it was 3 months ago, is I've got total. If I feel it coming, I guess that's what you did this past week. What I was talking about, I did. I welcome it, because it ain't going to last forever. And we know what was your expansion like after this sequence of engagements with Donna and Melissa? Have you hit the expansion yet? Are you still getting popped?
It continues to unfold. I mean, this is the third time in the last few weeks where I've been asked to truly stand in the grief for very different reasons,
Yeah.
and find my way back to my heart afterwards in that vulnerability.
Yeah.
Like I say, this morning, the experiences I had when I was talking with Melissa, and then I was just sat listening to that music from Krishna Das with his teachings. I was just like, I am all of the things I never thought I was, and that is a direct result of having moved through that grief. So, who we are on the other side of that grief, it's incredible, and it's learning that it's not just like, again, you know this. It's not just that, or someone's died, I'm processing the grief of loss. In fact, one of my friends posted a beautiful statement this morning. If I can read it to you, she said, "Grief is the culmination of the sacred equation, which equals loss plus change." And
Loss
plus change.
Yeah.
And it was an incredibly simple and beautiful way to express grief. And yet the depth of grief, it's not just someone passing, which is where most of us associate grief with, this great loss. It can be just a piece of us as a child or as an adult when something triggered or happened to us. There's a grief. And then there's the loss of that part. And then there's the despair or the pain that comes to fill and then hide the grief behind it. You know, grief is like 8 levels behind distraction, if you like. But the other side of grief, it's like the bullseye on a dartboard. Once you work through all of the layers, bang in the middle is this gift that is you.
Yeah, and I don't know any other way to do it. I don't know any way, and I'm not saying this is for everybody, and I'm not saying that I'm not open to a better way, but I don't know so far, and this has only been, like I said, like 3 or 4 months, but I don't know of any way better to do it than to just get into that space and just actually, not literally in your head, but just like re-experience the energy, bring the energy of whatever that grief is into you. And I don't know, it's an alchemy. It's definitely transformational. It's not like, it's not like ice cream and donuts, but when you come out of it, and it seems like when you come out of it, you got like this big wave, just like a big tsunami plasma wave just washes over you really slow. You feel raw, you feel powerful, but you feel soft. I mean, it's crazy. The level of the various frequencies that make up that vibration.
Yeah. It's incredible. And I think as we find ways to be with others who are aware of energy in different ways, be it how you're speaking, how you're feeling, what your field is like, as each person comes forward with their gift, with their ability to perceive, it will be that much easier for everyone around them to be held in love and actually just welcome that grief and release it so much faster.
Yeah.
And as soon as you take that one breath that allows you to feel, it can't not move.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, if you just push it off, it's just going to come back bigger, especially in this day and this day and time. But yeah. But the other thing is too, like if you look at your dad and your mom, so countless others, the energetic doors that they blew open, we are able to go through with more ease and grace. And then those that come, it feels like to me that a lot of this personal work, personal responsibility, like has really become a factor in what our experience is now. Not only for like our lives and our closest circles and our community, this type of community, but also collectively. I can't really, that's why I was talking about at the top of the show. I don't know. I woke up this morning looking at, everything. And I was just like, how do we get this frequency? How do we get these voices out there? How does this become, where people are going, what the hell's going on? All these people, they're not even concerned about viruses. They're not concerned about, anything. They're to thine own self be true. They're concerned with themselves. And they're saying that it's having a effect on our collective experience. I mean, of course, science and, religion would be like, what the hell are you talking about? But I think it's being talked about a lot more than we think. So are you coming out now? Are you coming out to play?
Yeah, I'm here. I mean, it's. I don't know what that looks like. I have a feeling, but yeah, I mean, it's like we said right at the beginning of the show. It's when you get to a place where you've done enough, where you can hold yourself and say, it's okay to speak. It's okay to share. It's okay to have views that I would always have silenced in the past. And in fact, in standing in what looks like crazy, I am able to be more peaceful than most of the people that walk towards me shouting about this distraction or this trauma. Because, yeah, when you're present, people can't help but notice. And it's when you take away everything that's been stripped from us over the last hundreds of years, and you take away the freedoms, you take away the land, you take away the belief structures, you take away the languages that flowed from the heart instead of the thinking brain. We've been trapped, and we've been taught to be trapped. And what's happening when you're in that trapped energy is that you don't have presence. And the one thing that we're now standing up and saying is, I'm here. Yeah. And it doesn't need to be forceful. It doesn't need to be shouted. But when you're stood in presence, I mean, you were at Sedona recently. I mean, I was just grinning every minute thinking about what that must be like, because there's so many people gathering together in presence.
Yeah.
And when you're able to breathe in that presence and actually not be offended by it, which is an interesting one, because it offends. It can really offend and trigger the distracted mind. Yeah. But when you just stand in that resonance, it invites people to go, how can he be so calm when the world is literally ending?
Yeah.
And yeah. So I'm out and I'm speaking and
good. We'll have to make this do this.
I'd love to do that, and I loved what you said earlier about getting a group of different people together and sharing space. There's
like the open mic.
Or a round table discussion where it can you can invite.
Yeah, I was actually going to do one today, but I guess I could do one because we have another show in an hour and a half, or maybe I'll do one after the last show and after I talked to Morgan for a while. Hey, where are you at? Are you in Canada or Scotland?
At the moment, Todd, I'm a tourist in Canada. I arrived a week before the lockdown, and the borders closed.
So you're over there anchoring.
It's mad. It's again, it's part of that incredible story that brings me here. At the moment, I'm in Canada. I have friends here, and it's amazing. It's where's next? I don't know. But at the moment, I'm a guest here. I'm not allowed to work here.
You're not allowed to work there.
No. So it's literally I'm here as a guest, but I'm being held by one of my friends.
Wow. So so like I look at that and other people, even like Morgan's situation, and the people over there. And Franco in Canada, I don't know how him and Kimberly made it to the Soulogy Fest. It's a story in itself, but it was a story of doing what you said a minute ago when you said, what's up with that guy over there? He's calm, cool as a cucumber, and not concerned about anything on the external movie screen, right? It's like that type of energy. So I see what you and people like you are doing is standing in a chaotic, seemingly dense atmosphere and holding an illuminated point on the new grid, like the higher pitch tuning fork, right? Just your presence there, or a person's presence in a certain area, I think is
in any moment where we're able to be present, and I really don't put myself on some pedestal, because I came from all of the noise, and hey, I get triggered. Well, look at the reaction I had to someone who showed me a kindness the other day. I was in all of my rage.
I was going through something like 10 days ago, or maybe 2 weeks ago. I can't remember. And Morgan wrote this post, and it was a very nice post. It was like a deep moment she had. I think it was something about her higher self said, make a list of the things you love about the mirrors in your life. Right. And so she didn't like name each person, but I could see, obviously the good, the reverence. It was very cool, but it triggered the hell out of me. I went like you did that morning. I was just like beside myself. But I guess in a way there was. Well, it was a lot like your experience with Melissa. I'm like, you have this but as there, or even like say something like Soulogy Fest. So you have all this present, like-minded, aligned energy, and then you walk away from it. I'd love to hear the stories about what happened after you left it. It'd be like your story. There'd be a lot of them like that. I had a great talk with Melissa. I wake up the next day and I'm full of rage.
Yeah, but again, Todd, I mean, I look at you and I'm just like, it's like I'm perceiving that there's a separation between you and some of the people that you see. Like you're looking at me maybe and thinking, oh, well, you're shining over here holding that vibration, but you're holding it.
Oh, I know that. I know that. Well, I know that. I mean, look, that's the name of the game. To be able to look across the screen, so to speak, and see you. That's me. Now, that's a great thing about being in a relationship like I'm in, because there's a lot of core essence that pulls us together. So to work in that environment is a blessing. And let me just say on that note, the best thing about these types of connections are the mirrors in your face, and taking to heart, it's never them, it's always me. Because what that means to me is I can go into any situation, and if I focus on my energy field, which means to come into equilibrium with anything and everything around me without judgment, condemnation, and so on, then I can alter the field around me. Because everything around me is
you.
It's the universe. Yeah, it's me and it's the universe. It's my twin flame. The universe is my twin flame, right? I don't like that word, but it's me. It's me looking at me. So this avoidance that we've had and have had to have, these doors we've had to close, that it's not going to remain that way. We're actually being faced energetically every day, and I don't care who you are and what you think you know. Every single day is a come to Jesus meeting, as the Southern Baptists say. But what I'm trying to say is that every single day, it's becoming our natural state, and as a result of that, these things are flying. These things are coming in. It's coming in warp speed. So, where's this going to end up, Robert? Like, where are we going to be in 3 months? Do you think we'll be teleporting in a year? Do you think we'll be? I mean, it's gotta parallel it. I mean, whether it be psychic abilities or whatever. I mean,
It's interesting because again, I've heard you ask that question of a few of your guests recently, and it's I don't play there, and for me, that I've lived in what comes next my whole life. I've been waiting for that next moment, and every time I reach into that next moment, I'm so busy reaching forward, I fall on the sidewalk and break my nose. And so, do I believe that we are everything? Yes. Do I believe that my heart is literally mirrored in every experience around me? Yes. Do I know that I can reach out energetically and be present with another person anywhere on the globe?
Yeah.
Yes. You know, but I don't allow myself at the moment, Todd, to play in the what could be, what will be next.
You can't.
No, because if you do,
it doesn't work. Well, and it's not even allowing us to, is it?
The word is intrigue.
It's what?
Intrigue. I've found that whether it be news or a desire for something in the future or something that he said, she said, if it manages to hit a resonance within us that's intrigue, we are able to actually give away all of our energy, all of our peace from one piece of intrigue.
Yeah, it's distraction.
I
mean, it sounds cold, but traumas were an unconscious distraction. We had to identify them so we could remove the distraction or the obsession with our past, and then you have this obsession with who I am and what I'm going to be. Yeah, I get that. I think that there's a combination of internal, and here we go again, everything outside of us is the universe. So everything outside of me is, but this internal work that's being done, there seems to be a matching energy in the external, let's call it the universal energy on the earth, that's pushing us to be present. Like with the quarantine. Yeah, it's a pain in the ass, but people spend a lot of time with themselves in the last year and a half. Right?
Yes, they have.
You know what I mean? So there's something about, even if you try to go play in the BS, you know what I mean? Or you try to swim in the past or the traumas or become distracted with the future. There's something keeps pushing. I mean, that's how I feel. Something just gently, but consistently, deliberately, steadily pushing us back to ourselves over. And what that means is you have this this kaleidoscope that gets bigger every day.
Yeah.
And, regardless of how the energy goes throughout the day, it just feels all right. Like at least once every 24 hours, you get this, wow, we're making some progress here. So when I look at what's this going to mean? It's more like a curiosity, like, wow, like an excitement. But one thing I do feel is that in order for anything beyond what we've experienced to occur, obviously it has to occur within ourselves, it has to be engaged, right? It has to be engaged, because if you engage it, it's real. It's just like, did you see that girl that came on the other day, Amanda Smith, and she was talking?
Goodness. I love
that.
Dude,
so that was just like the telepathy that was occurring with you and Melissa. It was the same thing, but it wasn't just two people. It was, right? But if I had just shut it off and said, oh, you're having tech issues, and it's not, I didn't do anything. The you, me, we, and it told me, push the live button and just go with it. But that's what it's going to take. So
you called it perfectly. Between polarity and the paradox, it's totally that you need.
Yeah.
You need engineers. You need people to be. What are their gifts? when they're really present. And you have this incredible ability to bring people from all walks of lives together and say, what if?
Yeah.
And when you take that and then you bring it into presence with other people whose gift is anchoring energy or bringing light or inviting this movement, when we look at the two silent gatherings, when we come together and this one energy touches another, if you focus it consciously, so we focus it on Todd for a moment, and all of us do that, or we all focus it on Morgan for a moment, or we invite that person to be massively charged. And as we come together in community in this way, we invite the highest resonance of everyone. So the person like yourself who brings people together and is asking the questions, that's the community aspect we're missing. And when you add that to the different gifts of people, I think at that point you would be able to ask that question, but ask it from I'm struggling for words. There's an energetic resonance there. Like you'd be super empowered to ask the question from absolute love without it becoming a distraction. And that, I think that's what's next, Todd. I think whether we're apart or together or virtually, I think we're being invited as we stand in our unfolding hearts to gather in a space and have us ground into the earth and connect to the sun, to connect to the universe, bring it into us, and then share from that place our attention on another. And then the energy will just start building and moving through that space.
Yeah, that's a great description. It really is. That's a great description. I saw that at Soulogy Fest. That's what it was, but it was physical, and it wasn't just me. It was everybody. All you saw was people embodying what you're talking about, as they would walk by each other and they would just look at the soul recognition. And over again, like if you saw somebody once, I saw them already. It wasn't like that. You'd walk by and you do it again. You're right. In so many ways, you describe it perfectly. I mean, it's almost frightening to consider the fierce, ferocious growth component, expansion component of what you're describing, because it's happening.
Todd, it's the next evolution of what this is, whether it's the expansion, whether it's the evolution, whether it's, stepping into ascension. What you're saying is that if we come together and, it's like the old hippies, peace, but it's actually, if you come together in a community, in any environment, because we know we can reach anywhere on the globe and focus our love on a person, we're all able to create from that space whatever it is that comes next. Like now, today.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. Totally agree with that. When I first woke up, there was a couple 3-4 year period where I was never an energy practitioner, but synchronicities would present themselves and so on, and then I would be in this, basically, doing a session or whatever you want to call it, and I never studied anything, but one thing that would always come through, the way it would start, and again, it wasn't me, it was a you, me, we, and it telling me just do this, like don't try to figure anything out, and it was to create a circle of life with, this is the way I saw it at that time, with all, like, let's say there's me, you, Morgan, 3 or 4 people, we create a circle of life, and all of our angels and guides join us in the circle of life, and we put one person in the center. So this would be the person I would be working with, right? And that's what it would be, what you're describing, the energy of what you're describing.
Yeah.
So there's so much of course, it's important. Stay in your own lane. To thine own self be true. Mind your own business. Mind your own fucking business. All that stuff. But there is something about the physical matter aspect and the paradox, right? The paradox polarity thing that we're in I'm damn near 100% believing in my own heart, my own essence, that we're being given the opportunity to create what we've created inside ourselves to a degree that's never happened before. Which, for instance, if you take divine union, to actually become two separate, you're there and I'm here, yet actually have the qualities that we've attained within ourselves, what kind of effect will that have on the physicality and the physical experience? We're talking beyond quantum here. We're talking about what lies. Look, if you look at our journeys in respect to our individual download, on my ass, come out of it, expansion, that cycle. If you look at what happens, we go through the shit to get to the shift. And why would our overall lives be any different? As Morgan always says, a copy is a copy is a copy. So to me, it's mind-blowing I'm not going to say where we're going, because we're already there. It's already here.
Yeah, it's now, for me, about bringing that consciously forward.
How do you do that? I'm just curious. Sound like a good question.
It's a great question. I mean, there are 1,000 different answers, but let me just start by taking a breath, because it's going to be there.
Yeah.
When we stand in presence, we stand as that aspect of the divine, and we invite that power, that light, to come through us, to shine as us. And for me, as we take that breath and remember, it's not what I want, it's not what I hope's going to happen, it's I take the breath, I really ground myself, and then I'm going to consciously now project energy somewhere. So, like you and I are sitting here, I could ground myself. Well, it's pointless me talking about it. I'll do it. I'll ground myself in my energy, and then I will share it to you. Now, for me, in that moment, I become very still, and I feel your heart. I can't speak to your experience of it, because I'm over here experiencing it. But when we do that collectively, Todd, see, whatever hasn't been healed, it's just going to fuck off, because it can't stand in that energy.
That's
and if
right.
you bring 3, 4, 5, 10 people to put their focus, and it only needs to be for seconds, because as soon as you stand in that much projected love, you remember all of that which you've forgotten. And for me, that's next.
Yeah. Yeah, I've talked to some people about this since I've been in Sedona, like being around that whole experience, and just the whole sequential aspect of going and on the way over, being there, and on the way back. And that's like this message that I've always heard, but it's coming in more and more and more. And it's this, I really can't fully explain it, but I'll just try. And it's basically blasting the light. Like when I said you have to engage let's say you have to engage the idea of teleportation, you have to engage the idea of having psychic telekinesis abilities, or whatever it is, right? In yourself, to engage yourself, right? I mean, to engage yourself in okay. And I'm, of course, shadow work, zero pointing, but what I'm talking about is to engage your creative expression, to do what you're doing right now. When you said it's time for me to come out, that's the personification of what I'm trying to talk about, or explain.
No, I mean, it's that, Todd, but you see, the incredible thing is, this is where resonance is so much easier than words. As we're stood in a space that is being, and by space I mean our heart, and it is being energized with other people's energy around us. At that point, what's going to stop you from materializing over there in Australia or on another planet and literally going there?
I agree. Totally agree.
One is, we are learning how to bring this energy that is all around us through us. And we're learning how to manipulate it, how to hold it, how to shape it. And it's shaped through our love and our heart. And so we invite it in, we take a breath, we feel it build. And then what? Well, I've now created this ball of energy here in my hands. What do I do? Do I give it to you? Do I bring it back into my heart? Do I gift it to the world? But when we start focusing, and then instead of it just being a ball, we move it and we put it into the shape of an infinity, it's at that point we start bringing zero pointing into the actual that point of and it's at that point that the dream starts to become the reality that we're now choosing to live.
True. Yeah.
And I might have got a little bit distracted there for a minute, but that's
you're right on the money. The 0 point field, or I call it the soul highway, but I mean, the 0 point field is the womb of creation. That's the womb of creation. Look at this incredible message, by the way, from this brother. Thank you for when you sense your energy. He's talking to you. Today is
okay.
Shoot. Let me see if I can pull it up. Something's wrong with this.
Oh no, I can see it here.
Yeah, okay. I felt a warmth. Oh, it's Chris McCoy. I felt a warm hug in my heart. When you sense your energy, today is very hard for me. My son left this world 3 years ago today. I went to Sedona in October to run away and try to find him. It was the most divine experience I could ever have.
I love you, Chris.
Yeah, that was a very cool
It's
comment.
Amazing to hear you say that.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
Let me thank you for that, and let me take a breath with you.
Yeah.
And that loss, that grief. Thank you. So much love.
Yeah, we just got whacked. We just dropped about 20 people just like that. But and I know it's not because they left. This
Chris.
has been happening. These that was huge. But the energy that's produced is drawing attention. That's the way I would put it.
Totally.
Not in a yeah, you know what I mean? I mean, this is what I'm talking about. What's happening, what we're all a part of. It's going to become mainstream, and and I don't mean like headline. I'm talking about it's going to become the dominant force in the physical part of this, not just the energetics. Very, very quickly, because of power like yours, the people like you.
I think we're all reaching that point, Todd. I really do.
I know. Yeah.
And Chris, please don't apologize for sharing your heart.
No.
Being able to feel that and share some love with you, brother, that was a gift for me. Thank you.
I don't understand that message. I was going to say, you want to do something before we go? But I think
I want to do something.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a specific anything. I'm just sat here in love, Todd, and getting to share a breath with you and your platform. And all these wonderful people that are watching now or will watch later. My heart is open, and I think as we stand in this opening, that is the gift. We are each the healing that we've been looking for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, I thank you all, and Moyo Kondoro Yashta Yachandaya Yahweh Yachen Yohandoi Imieshtandadoi Ichtandara Yachta Imiechtandarishta. Thank you.
Thank you. I didn't mean to keep you 2 hours.
Oh, it's been a beautiful gift.
Right on.
And,
it has been.
I love what you're doing, and I love the energy that you're uniting. And yeah.
Well, that's what I was going to say earlier about what you were saying about it's time to come out, and I'm feeling that a lot. Like no matter what, 3 shows a day. No matter what, and it's always been that way, but I mean even more so now. Like it's like the I don't know. It's almost like like a long race, like a mile, like our 1,500 meters, and they get to the last lap and the gun goes off. Like it's like the foundation of our takeoff, our blast off, and I feel like that it's important to show up, regardless. I mean, always take care of yourself. Don't get me wrong. If I feel bad, I'll take off, but there's something about showing up because whether we do or we don't, the energy is pretty much going to be there. It's not like you're going to change anything. And I think part of what's happening for us is getting used to not only what our natural nature is, but this transition from where we've been to where we're going, so to speak.
With no idea of where each foot's going.
That's right, because this is actually the new template, right? These are the new blueprints. This is the latest intelligence produced by the universe in a polarity, paradoxical polarity, right? Where there's a 0 point in the paradox itself. And so this is it, man. This is the part I don't think we'll miss anything, but I mean, because we're souls, multidimensional souls, but this is the best part. Figuring this shit out. Meaning, energetically, by feeling, intuition, all that.
Yeah, again, it comes back to presence, doesn't it? It's that, we've been fighting for so long. It's
no more fighting.
Yeah, it's no more. What was it? The healing. You spent a lifetime healing, but now we're transitioning to thriving. And
that's yeah.
I read that somewhere recently, and
that's what I was trying to say earlier. That's what I was trying to say earlier. It's like we were on the defense and now we're on the offense. That'd be another way to say it.
Yeah.
And part of that too, like what you just did, it used to be, and I'm not knocking it. Okay. People come on in the early days of the show and they'd be like, I'm going to heal everybody. And I'm not knocking it.
No, I'm laughing because I, for years, had that dream that I was going to heal the world.
Well, and now it's more of an organic, more heartfelt because the collective consciousness is more expanded. We're more in touch as a group, and so it's more of a situation like you. Which the point is that we're part of that being on the offense and not being on the defense. Now we're able to start looking at people. Not that we're clean, but we're getting there. We're actually able to look at people as mirrors on the positive side and go, wow, he's fucking amazing, Robert. And I'm him.
Sorry.
Right? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? I mean, yeah.
It just took me a moment because it's that again, the old fears to be seen, and what you're saying is that no, Todd, I'm claiming that energy as my own because it's mine. And that reflection, that was my healing this morning. It was like everyone I'm seeing, and it's been talked about forever, is representing something I'm at, I want, or I subconsciously don't realize I haven't dealt with yet. And if I can find that breath with each person, the gift is vast.
Yeah.
For me and the other, because I'm healing me. I'm not trying to heal you. I'm saying that resonance to pain that I'm feeling.
Yeah.
I can hold it because I can resonate with it. I can feel it.
What part of Canada are you in?
At the moment, I'm in London, Ontario. And I will be fascinated to see if I end up in the States, if I end up back in the UK. If I feel like I'm going to be moving again soon, which, given the state of the world, I find hilarious. Are
you traveling? Are you traveling by yourself?
Todd, I'm not even. I mean, yes and no. Like, I'm not traveling in any traditional sense of travel.
No. But I mean, you went to Canada. Were you by yourself?
No. When I came over to Canada, I came over. I followed my heart. I'd met a woman in Scotland who was Canadian, and I followed her back to see, how we would get on, how life was. And then I arrived, and the place that I was going to be staying, the lady was like, "No, there's COVID. You can't stay here." So we ended up moving in together, and then we lived together in our family home for, I don't know, 12, 15 months. And we went through that entire COVID experience together and became each other's mirror. All the traumas that we'd never healed.
Wow.
Just stood on top of each other, and it became this really painful, hard experience. But wow. I have friends here, and when it was time at the end of March, it was just like, we are crippling each other. I need to leave. And I was able to reach out to my friend and her family, and they called me and they were like, "Yeah, we can put you up. We can support you. We'll hold a safe space for you. Wow. Come and be here for a while." So I've been here for nearly 2 months now, and it's been an incredible gift. I've been physically and emotionally held, and that's been enduring since 2019. And this is the next stage. There's another movement next. I can feel the movement coming, and I believe it's to community, but I don't even have a country. I know.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I know I'll end up where I need to be.
Yeah.
Hey,
just do me a favor. How do you say "I don't know" in?
I didn't ken.
Huh? Honey?
I didn't ken.
I didn't ken. I didn't ken.
That was good.
I didn't ken. Yeah. I can never pronounce it because they say it so fast.
I mean, the other way that most Glaswegians would say it is "fuck knows," but
it's what?
Would be "fuck knows."
Fuck knows.
Yeah.
I didn't ken. Okay.
I didn't ken.
All right, we'll be back in 55 minutes with Seraph Knight, another brother that's been in the Soulogy group for probably like 8 years. So I've never talk to him in person. But so yeah, if you guys want to join us, Robert, let's do it again.
It's been a
Let's
pleasure.
do it again.
Yeah,
Thank you for being you, and thank you for coming in and being present and sharing space with us, honoring us with your presence. I wish you the best, and
Thank you so much.
if you get to the U.S.,
Todd, you're on my list, my friend.
if you get to the U.S., hit me up.
Yeah, I'd love to share some space with you.
I'd love to come together with you. Absolutely. You take care. I love you. I love you, man. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody. We'll see y'all in 55 minutes.